Thank you for being here with us today for the joint United Faculty of Florida and Academic Affairs Tenure and Promotion Workshop. I'm Susanna Rose, the Associate Provost of the Office to Advance Women, Equity, and Diversity. And let me just remind you that because this is a webinar, the chat doesn't work. You have to use the question and answer. And we are recording this so others can view this later. I'd like to start by welcoming Kenneth Furton, our provost, to make a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Susanna. I want to thank you and the other offices in the UFF for organizing this workshop. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the workshop. As you know, the objective of any promotion is to recognize outstanding faculty who've excelled in your teaching and research and service within the academy and within our community. And so the purpose of this workshop is to make sure things go as smoothly as possible and make sure that you're treated with great care and dignity throughout the process. And just want to let you know that the Office of the Provost is here to support you throughout this process. And in a minute, you're going to hear from Vice Provost Heather Russell, who leads the Office of Faculty Leadership and Success. And I want to thank Susanna, who is the founder and director of the Office to Advance Women, Equity, and Diversity that have been critical in many of these processes you're going to hear about. And I also just want to say, if you heard about transition that's going on, in a few months, I'll be transitioning from provost to Provost Emeritus officially I'll have that title on May 11th. I'll be working with Interim Provost Behar throughout the transition process and working with Interim President Jessel. And I just want to assure you that everything is going to be fine. Sometimes if you read in the newspaper, it sounds like there's turmoil and so forth, but most of the leaders that are still here on the quote unquote fifth floor, have been here for 8, 10, 15 years. So there is stability. I'm still going to be around as a Provost Emeritus supporting you in a different role, focusing on research as Chief Scientific Officer. And I've said this on many occasions, most recently at the Foundation Board of Directors meeting, is that the reason I have confidence that FIU is going to be fine is that the core, the heart and soul of the university are the faculty. So really, administrators come and go, students are here 4 to 6 years, but the faculty are here for decades, and that's the foundational support that keeps a university great. And the way universities are ranked is based on student success, which comes from what you do in your classrooms, as well as the research preeminence, which is the reputation of the faculty. Those are the two main things that have helped us become the fastest rising university in America, moving up 17 spots in U.S. News last year, is because of those increases. And we have great momentum, and I'm very excited about my new role, and I'll be around supporting Susanna and Heather and all of you in a different role moving forward. So thank you, Susanna, for organizing this, and I look forward to the workshop.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you, Provost Furton, and you've been a fantastic advocate for the faculty. I hope that always continues at FIU. I know Heather is certainly an advocate for the faculty as well. So let me share my screen for a minute so I can say a little bit about my office. Okay, so most of you know about the Office to Advance Women, Equity, and Diversity, or OWD as we call it, just because we don't want it to sound like odd, ODD. We provide research-based educational diversity, equity, and inclusion training for the academic workplace. We've been funded by a NSF $3.2 million grant with Provost Furton as the principal investigator. And we offer all the inclusive excellence programming here for faculty professional development. Our goal is to attract, recruit, retain, and promote more women and underrepresented minority faculty here at FIU to better reflect the demographics of our student body. So we have increased the numbers of Hispanic faculty and Black faculty. We're still working on the Black faculty though. So we do have signature programming. Many of you have been to Stride. I'd just like to clarify there are two types of strides. There's the stride for hiring that search committees members that have to attend, and there's a stride for tenure and promotion, which is a recent offering that we developed because of problems that a few people had in the tenure and promotion process. We strongly recommend that you do attend that tenure and promotion workshop just for your own benefit. You can see what kind of things go wrong sometimes and also what your rights are. We have the award-winning Bystander Leadership Program. This is a one-day interactive program that teaches faculty how to intervene to make FIU more inclusive in faculty interactions. And the Faculty Mentor Program is available to all faculty, where we will team you with a senior person, typically in your own area of work, teaching, or research. And this has led to a lot of improvement in faculty satisfaction with mentoring here at FIU. We also have an annual Women Faculty Leadership Institute. This is a half-day workshop in May that focuses on some aspect of leadership for women faculty. Some of you may be involved in your department's diversity and inclusion plans. We provide support for those. And we also have college equity advisors in several colleges. Caroline Simpson, who wasn't able to be here right now, she may step in later. She is the College of Arts, Sciences, and Education Equity Advisor. So most of the colleges do have an equity advisor that you can go to for things you wish to discuss. We also have a theater component to our workshops. We call it AWED Theater, which is also available for independent viewings. It's part of our Bystander program, but the theater consultant is available to do things independently as well. So we want to make sure you connect with us. We have Celine Torres is our new communications director, and she is very active on LinkedIn, and she is posting things that the faculty have done. So if you have any accomplishments you want us to publicize, you should send them to Celine or to me or to AWED. And she's also active on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So please follow AWED on those social media. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce Heather Russell, our new Vice Provost for the Office of Faculty Success and Leadership. Heather.
Thanks so much, Susanna. Thank you, Provost Burton. I just wanted to welcome all of you to this workshop and acknowledge the fact that, you know, it is a time of transitions, and transitions can sometimes be anxiety producing. I myself am just transitioning into this new role. 2 full weeks, and I mean full in the best broadest sense of the word. But I do want to echo Provost Barton's affirmation that I will be working very closely with him and with interim Provost Behar in the transitional process. And, you know, we continue to believe and firmly believe at FIU that the tenure and promotion processes are the hallmark at the center of what we do as an institution. There will be no disruption in those processes. And we just want to assure you of that. I can tell you a little bit about me. I'm an 18-year faculty member here at FIU, having gone through myself the process of the tenure and promotion process from assistant to associate and associate to full. Most recently, before joining this office, I was Dean of the School of Environment, Arts, and Society, and prior to that, chair of the English department. And so, you know, I'm a very proud Panther and have been fully integrated into you know, the various faculty processes. And I can tell you, I remember, you know, with it was a long time ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago. That process of, you know, leading up to tenure and some of the stressors around it. And what I can assure you is that certainly in the process as it has been really worked on and refined over the past 2 years, really led by my predecessor, Dr. Kathleen Wilson, who was Vice Provost for Faculty and Leadership and Success, and her team, a wonderful team, really worked hard along with Susanna's office of AWED to crystallize, concretize processes to ensure that they're even more transparent, even more fair. And so I'm here for you. I'm here as an advocate for you. And later on, I will share in the chat my contact information. But I just wanted to go through and apprise you of a few changes that are reflected in the current Tenure and Promotion Manual. So anyway, I just wanted to, so there's been a lot of work done on the Tenure and Promotion Manual, and it was approved by both the Faculty Senate and Office of the Provost on November 2020. And I'm just going to highlight some of the changes. So the manual pertains to tenure earning faculty, non-tenure earning faculty, librarians and clinical faculty, tenure as a condition of employment. So those are folk who have come in and wish to be tenured based upon their current status. And then of course the third year review. So outlined in the manual are the, what the file should look like. So the composition of the file. Very critically, the responsibilities of individual faculty, department committees, chairs, college committees, deans, and provosts. And so I can't stress enough how important it is that you really familiarize yourself with the entire process, tenure and promotion process as it's outlined in the manual. Also included are is a flow chart and timelines. These timelines change very little, but you want to make sure that that, for instance, where your file will be expected to be in the process, when you should expect to get notifications for example, when the college committee's decision has come in, what the time frame is for you to respond to what those decisions are, should you deem that necessary. So you really, really want to be actively informed of the process. And then the process to determine external reviewers, right? What are some of the required components in the external letters and so on. So a couple things about changes. The processes for all of the ranks are integrated into one document now. This is a really, really important point. So your external letters are, of course, solicited by your department chair. Because we live in Florida and because of sunshine laws, there is technically a right for you to see letters. However, departments were asked, and this happened some years ago, to vote to make determinations about whether external letters should be kept confidential or not. What your department decision is about that, what your department process is about that, should be reflected in the letter of solicitation that's going to go out to external reviewers. Another key improvement, I'm going to call it an improvement, is that collegiality is now officially included. And I think this is really important that we can say that there is the expectation that we behave towards each other and with each other, in a collegial manner. And so there is that protection for you in the TMP manual. The other point of clarification is that reasons for abstaining from voting have been clarified. So it used to be that, there was the notion that an abstention was equivalent to a no vote. That is not the case. That's been clarified. And that is the expectation that both the departmental committee letter, the chair's letter, and certainly the college committee letter, if there are abstentions, will clarify the reasons for those abstentions. Usually it's, if there's a conflict of interest. such as, someone on the college committee is actually a member of a department and so on. So in terms of clarifications, again, right, who can vote and when, is clarified in the manuals. Again, abstention, I just spoke to that. Really critically, the processes for how external reviewers' letters are solicited, right? How is that determined? That they need to be notified in the letter of solicitation that their letter is confidential, or in the rare cases not. And then whether or not there's been time off on the tenure clock. So which TNP criteria pertain to the candidate? So I want to just spend just a couple minutes explicating this a little bit. Some years ago, when faculty underwent and participated in the coach faculty survey, they indicated that there was not as much clarity as they would have liked in the tenure and promotion guidelines, right? Expectations. What were the departmental expectations for, according to rank? And so this office, again, under Dr. Wilson's leadership, has really spent time working with faculty and departments to get clear departmental guidelines explicated in writing. Again, they are. This is part of our belief in and the importance of faculty governance, right? And so faculty have deliberated, your departmental members, on what those guidelines should be. They've been voted on. They have then been sent up to your respective deans, who have made comment and then approved, and then they have come to the provost's office, and the provost has approved those. Now, there may be instances where a faculty was hired under criteria that were modified. In that case, faculty who are at least 3 years of tenure earning credit, they're evaluated under the old criteria, unless the faculty have notified FIU at least 30 days prior to the start of the tenure, right? So again, this is something you really want to be apprised of, right? If you're coming up and you fall into this group in terms of time, right? You have at least 3 years. You want to weigh whether the new criteria as laid out are what you want to be adjudged by or not. Strongly recommend you have conversations about this with your chair and with your respective college committees. Okay, so again, we really, this office has really worked, and I will continue to work to clarify all of the processes, so that, because we know that the more specific processes are, the clearer, more clearly articulated they are, the fairer it is for everyone involved, right? Process is laid out clearly, everyone has an equal chance at the process, the criteria is equal, you're judged by the same criteria. And so that work has been done in a couple ways. One is through the clarification by departments of their bylaws, and so departments were asked to and have been working on clearing up bylaws, who gets to vote, what are the processes. You want to really be apprised of what your bylaws lay out. Separate and apart from tenure and promotion guidelines. Again, you want to make sure that there are clear guidelines. Strongly recommend, again, meeting with department chairs, meeting with college committees to get clarification, and to urge that if guidelines are not clearly articulated, even in the documents as exist, which should not be the case, but let's just say that there's work towards getting greater clarification and specificity. You want to make sure that the process is followed, adhere to in terms of determining external reviewers, And there's a template there's a link for the template, which kind of gives chairs a beginning place in terms of their solicitations. In order to ensure a fair process, we want to, faculty, you should have a mentor. I do want to say that I think it is critical that departments assign mentors, departmental mentors for faculty. But I also want to give a plug to the work that's done in AWED with the mentorship program, which is extremely robust. Susanna has really developed that program. And so usually when I'm talking to prospective faculty, I say, both and, right? Both and I think are critical. Faculty must be given TMP guidelines when hired. If there's a change in leadership and there's a sense on your part that there are different expectations, right? The new leadership has different expectations, we will always defer to the written guidelines that are in place. So again, can't emphasize how important it is that the written guidelines that are in place are agreed upon, are clear, and are there to support you. This piece is pretty critical. So annual evaluations have to be based on your percentage of annual assignments, right? So you want to pay, and I know Eric is going to talk about this in a lot more detail, but I can't stress enough that it is very important that you are evaluated on an annual basis based upon what your percentage criteria is in your annual assignments, right? So if your research assignment is 68%, the annual assignment, their annual evaluation should reflect that, right? An evaluation based upon the notion that 68% of your effort is put on research, and there should be some departmental guidelines about then what that research productivity should indeed translate to or look like. Also, annual evaluations and third-year review assessments are critical in the process. If you are coming up for third-year review and you get a third-year review assessment that is not particularly helpful, too vague perhaps, not really giving you the kind of clear assessment that you need, I cannot urge strongly enough how important it is for you to make sure that you get clear assessments, both in your annual evaluations and in your third-year reviews, because these become very central to the TMP process. It is our expectation that the third-year review then is an accurate reflection of where faculty are in the process for achieving tenure and promotion. We expect that chairs support faculty throughout the tenure process. And we also expect that chairs should work with the faculty members to determine that a file is complete prior to uploading the file. In terms of letters, the letters that move up, so the college committee's letter, the dean's letter, the departmental letter, these are written based solely on the deliberative processes, whether it's in the college committee or the deliberative processes in the department, and also the determinations by the chair and the dean, who then make their own recommendations without conferring with outside sources. This is the case at every stage of the process until the entire file comes up to the provost's office, at which time the provost might request some verification or engagement with the information that in order to help inform the deliberative process. The process, Kathleen would say this very often, and I believe it's very much to be true, that the process is sacrosanct. So it is critical that, and we believe that the process needs to be fair and consistent. So just a couple other changes in the new TMP manual. There were added patents, startups, and et cetera, to the research section. The departmental letter must be accompanied by tenure and promotion guidelines in place for that candidate. And so again, this really helps with the deliberative process for the college committees and all the way through. So that again, the clearer the guidelines, right? They're in concert with the departmental letter. It really just helps to clarify the process. And then of course, it's a clarification of the teaching evaluation process. Let's see. Okay, I think this is sort of a parent. Sorry, no, I will pause on this for a minute. Departments need to have differentiated assignment policies in place. So the work on differentiated assignment policies, which really lay out, right, what are the expectations in terms of activity, right, for you that have been determined by your chair. That's what you're assessed on a yearly basis. So those policies have been put in place for all departments, alongside TMP guidelines having been put in place for all departments, alongside bylaws being clarified and updated for departments. So the process of doing all of this has taken a great deal of time and effort on the part of many. And I just want to acknowledge all of the folk that have been working on these. And again, we know that, we'll continue to refine the processes, but I think we've come a long way. Stride training is required now for all college committee members, chairs, and deans, and that's the TMP stride training. And again, I think this is an important, these are important interventions and conversations that OWID has with the various entities who are making decisions about your TMP file. And then, of course, faculty members should vote in home departments, but recuse themselves if you're in college committees. So you can only vote. They should vote once. Okay. I do want to just put a quick plug for the Evaluating Teaching project. So, one of the things that is I think a real improvement in terms of the putting together the files is, the amount of work that goes into developing teaching, innovating teaching. I know certainly these past 2 years have borne testament to the need for much of that. For those of you, for whom the teaching is a important aspect of it. It's important for all of us, but some people are on different assignments. But if you have a teaching assignment, we now have the capacity to and are expected to report not just on the spots, and the spots have been really revised, and the CAT team has done a tremendous job in expanding the use of spots, creating some new questions on the spots that are much more helpful and useful for you as faculty. But also you have the opportunity to report on, to both self-report, right? So the work that you've been doing to be excellent teachers, but also peer work that you might be doing together. And so peer evaluations in order to really present a much more fleshed out representation of the kind of work that you all are doing in the classroom. So CAT has open labs on the teaching evaluating project. And so I'm going to strongly encourage you to check out those labs because it becomes really important as you really build the file. Just a few last tips before I go. Do not wait until the last minute to upload documents into Panther 180. I know in a few minutes or later on the program, we'll hear from Abilene Pinzon, who heads up Panther 180. I can tell you that the updates to the CV are probably the most time consuming, and you should know that it is the CV as reflected in Panther 180 that is the document that is used as part of the evaluative process. So even if you upload a you know, a PDF or whatever it is, the document, the CV that is reflected in Panther 180, that is considered to be the official document. So you really want to give yourselves enough time to do that. And so I suggest you avail yourselves of the Panther 180 labs that are offered. I know Abby will talk about that a bit. The Tenure and Promotion Manual is really your sacred document. Keep it on an open tab, save it to your favorites, look at it, etc. Ask for help if you need it. We're all here to help you. We want you to succeed. When we hire faculty, it is because, you know, we have the expectation that you're going to be here and part of, you know, building FIU, building your departments. So, you know, we want you to succeed, and that's a premise upon which we begin. And certainly this office is here in our capacity to help support you. Finally, you know, I always have to make a plug for self-care. I used to call it BT and AT, before tenure and after tenure. It is certainly can be a very exhausting and challenging process. I think it's less so. I think the work that's been done has helped to make it less so. But you know, we're human, and you know, you're putting your life's work out for evaluation, and that can feel very nerve-wracking. And so, lots of resources here for you. I want to encourage you, as my very good friend always reminds me, to be a friend to yourself in the process. So, without further ado, Susanna, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Russell. So now we're going to hear from United Faculty of Florida representatives, Eric Dwyer, Associate Professor of Teaching and Learning, and Rachel Ritchie, Associate Teaching Professor in Psychology. So, Eric.
Well, good afternoon.
Thank you for
good
being
afternoon,
here.
everybody. It's lovely to see you. My name is Eric Dwyer. I'm an associate professor, tenured professor in foreign language education in the School of SED. we have a good time over there. I'm also here with Rachel Ritchie, and she is here with a message from the UFF president. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Eric. Hi, I'm Rachel Ritchie. I'm with the Department of Psychology. I'm an associate teaching professor, and I'm also director of undergraduate studies there. Martha wishes that she could join us, but unfortunately she's tied up with other things. But she sends all of her best wishes to us and asks that Eric and I answer any questions you might have about how UFF can help with the tenure and promotion process.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. And well, I'm going to give you the bulk of some information regarding our collective bargaining agreement and how it applies to the tenure and promotion process. But I'm also asking that Rachel jump in whenever she wants, hopefully stepping on my toes as hard as possible to suggest any key elements that I may be omitting. She completely has my invitation to do so, and I mean it. Anyway, I do have, like, it's the tradition, right? I have technology to share, and I'm happy to do that too. Here we go. Let's see if we can make this work. Dun, dun, dun. So far, so good, right? All right. Here's some quick information about the CBA. CBA is found at cba.uff-fiu.org, and it is a grand document that helps us guide the contract. It is essentially your contract for the university. And part of it has to do with tenure, assignments, and grievances. I was the president of UFF FIU for 3 years, and now I am the grievance officer. So if you have any issues that pertain to tenure and promotion or anything else with respect to administrative practice on campus, I'm happy to take your feedback. I'm happy to take your questions. Please feel free to email me and contact me at any time. And I think Rachel wants to make a plug here. Is that right?
Always, because you can only grieve, you can only have union support and file a grievance through the union. If you're a member of the union, I'm on the union membership committee, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about how to become a member. And I'm also going to drop a link to our membership form in the chat, just in case you haven't joined yet. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks so much. One piece of advice I'll go ahead and give right off the top is to make your file easy and navigate to read. You can do this even in an initial document, say, here's the way to navigate my file. And I think those types of files help readers get through it. Now, when it comes to tenure and promotion, you may be interested to know that the union cares about both of them to the extent that tenure, the word, is named 113 times within this document, and the word promotion appears 61 times. So presumably we care about this. We also care about money, and you may be interested to know that money is included in the CBA with respect to the raise that you ultimately get should you conquer the T&P process. Associate professors would get a 12% raise, and full professors would get a 14% raise. Now, I would be remiss without mentioning the issues of academic freedom. And certainly this year, more than previous years, given the politics of academia right now, the idea of academic freedom has become front and center of many conversations. I do believe that FIU has one of the most robust CBAs in the state, if not in the country, and it includes comments with respect to academic freedom. In fact, this year we even beefed them up, and thank you folks from the administrative side for agreeing to this, by using the words rights and responsibilities of academic freedom. It used to say just principles. Now we accept academic freedom as a right. And I do have comments from the Tallahassee office, who run the entire state of United Faculty of Florida, that this year they will be emphasizing academic freedom as a key element for which they are willing to defend and go to the legislature to discuss. Having said that, we have to understand that there are rights and responsibilities and what they include. Rights and responsibilities include our right to discuss and present any relevant matters regarding the way we teach our classes and picking the materials that are in it. It also helps us understand that we have the rights to choosing any avenues for scholarship and without any discipline or restraint. The one thing that we are not allowed to do is just automatically assume that we can attend any meeting and talk about this stuff. No, there has to be an agreement with the administration about what we're talking about. But we do have the academic freedom to comment on what is going on academically within our fields and at the university. The other thing that we have to do and understand is our responsibility with respect to academic freedom includes the trust that we emit with respect to promotion and tenure files. You got to be honest, you got to be fair, and you got to show the real deal. We don't fudge in tenure and promotion practices. We don't ask that administration do that, and we don't ask that faculty do that. So we're going to be as forthright with the presentation of our materials as possible, and that's in our contract that we will do that. Now it comes to what goes into the file. Now, Abilene Pinzon much later is going to talk about the details of Panther 180, but what I'd like to talk about is these criteria right here. We start with annual assignments, performance evaluations, and tenure appraisals. Tenure appraisals are quite important. These are not only your evaluative letters that come from the outside, but also your colleagues here on campus. But I'm also going to talk about these annual assignments and annual performance evaluations. They're important. You are effectively tenured on your assignment according to the CBA. So let's understand what that means. First, we start with your initial appointment. Now, the initial appointment that's sort of the jumping off point. It's where we get started. That's the kind of information that helps you start your job once you come to FIU. HR probably has a template document that they send out to everybody, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get tweaked. In fact, it often does. And everybody's is initially considered different. And that's the one we operate from should any of these issues with respect to grievance or promotion come into play. The other thing that you're also going to want to double check every year is that you get an annual notice of length of appointment and salary. That means sometime in August or September, preferably in August, FIU is to send you an email that says, yes, you're on for 9 months or 12 months, and this is how much you're going to make this year. You're supposed to get that pretty much at the beginning of each academic year. Next thing you're going to check on is any change in appointments. Now, let's say from that initial appointment, something drastically occurs. You need to get that in writing. The point of this is that your trajectory from the time you are hired to the time you are hopefully granted tenure is a story, and that story takes a bunch of curves. Every time there's a curve, the people who evaluate your file need to sort of know about it, especially the doozy ones, you know? These should happen in writing. They shouldn't be happening willy-nilly and out in the nethersphere. You can get it written down. So you want to have that ready and in an order for which people understand the sequence of items from the moment you start until the time you go up for your promotion. Having said that, we look at the academic calendar. If you're on 9-month faculty, then this year, you see that the academic year started on August the 12th, and it's going to end on May the 11th. If you're on 12-month, then you're going from August the 12th to August the 11th, and also have the summertime. That's also we're going to have the August 12th, May 11th sort of schedule starting next year. But these things change from time to time. Hurricanes happen, illnesses occur, things happen. And so please be sure you keep up to date by looking at the Provost website, the one that Dr. Russell pointed out earlier, because changes can occur. You may also want to pay attention to decisions made through the Faculty Senate. Annual assignments. Dr. Russell appropriately noted that annual assignments are a big deal, and they are. And the timing of it is also a big deal. Guess when we get them? You get them in the summertime. Now, this is really weird for a lot of folks, and it's even weird for the union. We kind of don't like it when people have to do stuff when they're off contract, but one thing you do have to pay attention to while you're off contract is your assignment, and that is in the summer. You're going to get it no shorter than 6 weeks, hopefully, before the beginning of the academic year. That's usually somewhere around July the 1st. And if you don't get your annual assignment, we kind of want to know about it. You should have at least a pretty good sketch of what your expectations are for the next year. And that should occur here in July and early July. If that doesn't get to you, then we should probably look at that and see if you can get it done. You don't want that dragging out into August, and certainly not after the beginning of the academic year. You want that nailed down straight away. One part of the assignment that we need to understand is that the way your assignment is derived should have a logic underlying it. These decisions should not come willy-nilly. They shouldn't come, oh, you just do this and that. No, there should be a process for understanding what you get to do. For example, if someone says, oh, I'm going to teach a class that the department just decided needs me to do, there has to be a reason for doing that. Usually it has to do with credentialing, but also it should have to do with your ability to use that coursework in order to develop a tenure file. Everyone should have an equitable chance to make this promotion. Saying that, if you do get a change in assignment, A, don't be surprised. It happens to almost everybody. But B, let's see if we can make certain that A, it happens in writing, and B, it occurs in a viable amount of time. Now, I say that with a little bit of trepidation because that's not always reasonable for an administrator. I'm going to side a little bit with the administrators, believe it or not, on this one. Enrollments don't make, classes change, people drop out, things happen at the last minute. While we often want our assignments to happen and be nailed down and the class is chosen a couple of weeks before the semester starts, things do occur. Now, we're going to probably wink a little bit at when that happens, as long as it's not arbitrary. If it's just arbitrary, then you got something to talk about. The other part of arbitrary and equitable opportunity is that the courses that you teach, the opportunities to do research, and the choices that you make with respect to kind of service that you do should have equitableness, if that makes any sense. That means that people are not overly pushed into one realm and then another. By the same token, one does not own a class. You don't own your own class. because there may be other people who need that class in order to make the same kind of promotion that you want. So it is a chair's very difficult job to try and juggle all of those elements together to make certain that it's fair for as many people as possible on an ongoing basis. But when those things are not fair, for example, for those of you who are doing tenure and promotion, for example, if you have learning assistants or teaching assistants, everyone should have if that's part of your assignment and that's part of the way you get your job done, if some people get them when other people don't, then there may be a problem. And we may have to look at equitability. It's things like that. I'm going to go through this. Performance evaluation. Evaluations are also important, and the timing of it is also important. You're going to get your evaluation following the academic year 45 days and no less than after the academic year starts. So if the academic year ends on May the 11th, then you're going to get your evaluation hopefully sometime in mid-June and no later. Now, here's the interesting thing is that once you get your evaluation, you've got 30 days to respond, and the calendar and the clock begins on that the moment you get your evaluation. It's not 30 days after the deadline, it's 30 days after you get your evaluation. So if there are any issues that you need to address, you've got a month to do it. And you have to do that during the summer. This becomes very, very important. I often get notifications in my grievance box saying, I don't like what my chair said with respect to my evaluation, but I get it in October. And I'm like, I can't do anything for you because we're beyond the 30-day rule. And like, what? I said, you could ask the chair to change it, and the chair could change it out of courtesy, but not out of legal obligation. It's only within those 30 days that you have the legal latitude to make that request and see if there's something that can be done. The one thing that you can say, and I don't have a slide for this, is that if the chair's information placed into your Panther 180 file in any way is actually inaccurate, and that is determined even after the 30-day period, that is addressable. You are not to have inaccurate material in your file. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay. Here's some dates. That would give you some ideas about the deadlines. June the 25th, September the 25th. I'll leave that on for a second. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, third year review. As Dr. Russell mentioned, third year review is also important, primarily because not only do you have a review of what you've done over the first 3 years, giving you an idea, you should have a trajectory named by your colleagues with respect to how you get the next set done, the next half of the process done. So that's and you are to have this. That's important. On the procedures, let me see if I understand what I'm saying here. Oh yes, so external reviewers' letters. The chair is responsible for the external reviewers' letters. And what am I looking at? I'm sorry here. Oh yes, Dr. Russell mentioned that you have to go by your department's policy with respect to whether you get to see letters early or later. Make certain that you are clear on when that is in your department and the degree to which you have that facility. Now, here's something that I recommend that everybody do. I think that should be a part of your tenure, your Panther 180 package. And I also think it should be information included with your external letters. But let's have an idea. Let's see. Here's where we start. We start with research, teaching, and service. And normally we have research 45%, teaching 45%, and service 10%. Each class counts as 11.25%. And by class, I mean a 3-credit class. Research would then, so 2 classes of research, Eric, 2 classes of teaching would equal a research assignment or a normal research assignment. Now, let's say that you get a course release to do a little extra research. You would then reallocate the numbers here. They add up to 100, such that teaching reflects the fewer classes that you teach, and the research includes the additional work that you do to it. Let's also say, for example, here on the 23-24 line, that the service says 22. So you amp up your service, you keep your teaching the same, you keep your teaching lower, and then you do the same research. That should also be reflected in your assignments. It should be reflected in your assignments. And I think a chart showing how it works all through your story from beginning to end, from hiring until you go up for promotion, should be included. I wouldn't actually mind if this were included with the external letters, but you would have to work that out with your chair to see if that's okay. So what does this mean for you in terms of assignments? Well, like I said, things happen. They often happen last minute. They also happen in the middle of the year. You get asked, can you join a new committee? This often happens with like search committees. Or I need to change your teaching assignments so we can accommodate these students. This happens all the time. I'm going to ask you to beat a dead horse and say the same thing over and over again. How does that affect my allocation? How does that affect my allocation? How does that affect my allocation? Your chair may get sick of that question. I don't care. I think it's a good idea. But your chair should also expect that question. Here's the union positions on this. One, just remind you, assignments are mostly the purview of admin. It's a hard job. But allocations should be aligned to the differentiated assignment policy in your department or your unit. This is highly important. Dr. Russell emphasized this, and I'm going to emphasize it again. You should have a differentiated assignment policy with respect to your classes, how big they are, what a 3-credit course that counts as 1.0 equals. If it's too big, then amp up your allocation. If it's, I also would recommend that you take a look at service and the service jobs that you do to determine how you get to 10%. Those seem to be quite important. In fact, it's my experience that a lot of people will end up landing on search committees. That's a big job at the expense of some of their teaching or research. Make certain that you really have strong conversations in your department with respect to what that means in your differentiated assignment policy. Be as clear as you can be about what this means for your work. What folks end up doing is free work. The union doesn't like free work. So, and the reason why we don't like free work is because it'll dig into the work that you're actually going to be assessed on. That's what we worry about. I don't want you to get dinged for something that you do as a favor. I'd rather that you be evaluated on the work that you're assigned. All right, so if we have a midterm change, let's say that we have our normal chart like this, make certain that you discuss with your chair how it would change in anything that happens. So if you then find out that you're going to do a little extra research, then this wouldn't work. 57, 45, 10, you're over, right? So you got to fix it. So let's then rob Peter to pay Paul a little bit and make this a 33. Do things like that to make this all fit and really do work that reflects these allocations. Here's some cautionary tales. Here's some things that I worry about. I already talked about what happens when you take on a service role. What often happens is people say, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do that for a favor, because if I do it for a favor, it's going to look really good on my record, and the chair is going to respond to me, and the people who evaluate me are going to love me. While true, that doesn't mean that's what you get evaluated on. You get evaluated on the 100% of that assignment. You don't get evaluated on the gravy. Well, I suppose you could, but that would be gravy. It's not to be expected. And at the time, if you're not fulfilling the obligations of your actual assignment, the gravy doesn't matter. You know, I like potatoes and gravy, but gravy, it's just a little bit of potatoes, doesn't make any sense. You still got to have good potatoes. You know. So anyway, the other thing that the union worries about is overloads. This may sound funny to you because this means money for a lot of folks, but the union doesn't like overloads. Overloads are problematic. The reason why, same thing. you try and do extra work, but people have lives, and you're trying to make this all work for your life, not only during your 40 hours a week, but also with the scope of taking care of family and your life outside of FIU. Well, at the time of review, reviewers, your colleagues, outside evaluators, they don't care. They look at your 100% allocation, and that's what they evaluate. That's what they are asked to do, and that's what their assignment is to do. So hopefully you'll take care of that, because when it comes tenure and promotion time, and you call the grievance officer, and the grievance officer says, well, you're being evaluated on your assignment. So, well, I did all this extra stuff. And I said, uh-oh, but you're not evaluated on that. You did that out of the kindness of your heart, but you're not evaluated on the kindness of your heart. So I appreciate the kindness of your heart, but that's the reality of tenure and promotion. So let's be really careful about what we say yes to. Finally, the same thing happens with grants. You say yes, and sometimes you feel like you have to say yes to grants to admin because you feel like you can't. I get it. Once again, at evaluation time of tenure promotion, you should be careful about what you say yes to. Now, if grants are part of your assignment, that's another thing. I'm actually speaking with respect to this only in departments where grants are not often a critical thing. If you're in one of the sciences where you have to grant, and it's part of your assignment, then yes, that's what you get evaluated on. But there are many places on campus where that's not part of your assignment. It's for you that I care about this, this concept. Please be careful about what you say yes to. One more thing. Chairs are also prone to robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it happens a lot when enrollments don't make. There have been a number of stories in the last 5 years where a chair has said, oh, well, let's see, we're going to cancel this class, but don't worry. Instead of having 4 classes this year, you only teach 3, but next year you'll teach 5. As far as the union's concerned, no, that's a no-go. Why? Because, all right, as far as we're concerned, the chair could say, yeah, your assignment is 3 courses, but the following year, if you're taking on 5, you don't teach that class for free. Your contract is year by year. Remember when we talked about appointments and appointment letters and your yearly assignment? Well, it's the same thing here. You don't teach a free class the following year without getting paid for it. That is an administrative error. So do yourself and don't do a favor like that. Instead, let's talk about allocations. And Dr. Russell appropriately mentioned that. And here's why. If an enrollment doesn't make, then the allocation needs to be adjusted with respect to research and service. All right? So things change. Oh, one last thing. In 2020 and 2021, we had a tenure clock stoppage possibility for faculty due to COVID. That was part of the MOUs that we had that went from March 2020 to May 2021. If you applied for a stop on your tenure clock during that period of time, I recommend that you include this in your chart or in your narrative regarding your explanations of your trajectory. That is important information. Once again, though, if you did pause your clock, not only for COVID, but for any other reason, you should include that information. You don't have to give away any health reasons if you don't want to. You just have to say you had an administrative clock stoppage. But be sure you include that as part of the story so that people understand it when they're evaluating the file. I mentioned that. Okay, my last advice. Be sure you keep notes. FIU is probably one of the best places in the state of Florida to work. I believe that. It's fun. People do a pretty good job. Yes, the numbers are there. The reasons that FIU scores that way are real. But it's also the 4th largest university in the United States with a faculty of over 1,300 and quite a number of administrators. A lot of them. Not all of them are cool. Most of them are, but not all of them. So you got to make certain that we understand what's going on. Know your rights regarding discrimination and discipline. even though FIU is a groovy place to be, not all folks are groovy. And we have cases, very recent cases, ongoing cases that pertain to discipline and discrimination. As I mentioned, don't work for free if you can't. And I will amplify this, this call to working toward faculty governance in your department meetings, especially if you do not have a differentiated assignment policy yet, and especially if you haven't ironed out all the things with respect to service. Make certain those conversations are ongoing in your department. Get it on your faculty agenda. For those of you who have only one meeting in a semester, get it on your agenda now. All right. I think that's all I've got. I'll be happy to answer more questions as we go through. I'll also join in the Q&A. And if folks have any questions even after this, I'm happy to address it. Thank you so much for spending time with me and allowing me to come on.
Thank you, Eric. I always learn something. Thank you, Rachel, for being here and for putting all those links in the chat. So now we have two recently promoted faculty who are going to make a few comments, of words of advice, or describe their experience. First, we have Joshua Ellis, Associate Professor of Teaching and Learning. So Joshua, do you want to talk for a few minutes, please?
I sure can. That's what I get paid to do, I guess. So thank you for inviting me here. It's great to be able to chat with you all. I remember attending these workshops myself, and I learned a lot from the folks that are in the panel here and more. So I appreciate the ability to come back and share kind of how it went down. I don't know what I can do to improve upon some of the advice you've heard already today, and I wish I could have been here earlier to hear more of it because I still find it valuable. But I thought maybe some of the things that I could share about that don't get advertised so much is what it's like when you're in process. Someone told me it's the pig moving through the python. I don't know if that's the best metaphor, but it can feel like that sometimes. And I think one of the things that was impressed upon me early on, and I think it ended up being quite true, is that every department's going to be a little bit different. So I could tell you exactly how my Department of Teaching and Learning handles the whole process, and that may or may not be super relevant to you. There are a couple people here for whom that would probably be true. But I think one of the things that I wanted to share was just kind of some of the things that happened along the way that I was grateful happened, that I was appreciative, that I had a little bit of a heads up on, and maybe even some of the things where if I had another go at it, I might try it a little bit differently. As Susanna introduced me, it all worked out, so I'm happy about that part. But I think one of the things that I was pleasantly impressed by, something that was kind of groovy, to use Eric's words, were that a lot of the folks within my department who were making a decision on my file, I got the impression, I don't know if they would say this, but I got the impression that many of them were looking for that confirming evidence. It was not a firing squad kind of setup. They were really looking into the file to see, okay, what are the things that really speak to this individual's qualifications and why they're an important part of our department, why they have potential to advance scholarship and teaching moving forward. And as I got to read these letters that came in at each stage of the Python, I guess, that was something, that was an impression I got. And like I said, I don't know if they would necessarily agree with that, but it was encouraging to me to see my colleagues who I respected pulling out the things from my file and saying, yeah, this is something that's worth mentioning. This may not be a big deal in your field, but let me tell you why this is a big deal in our field. And so seeing those kinds of pieces enter the process was really encouraging for me. And as you know, it goes up to the next level, and that gets reviewed by the next link in the chain. So having those pieces in there was something that I really appreciated. So if that's something that maybe you're not sure right now how people would opine about your work, I think you're free to ask them now before the whole process starts, and I would encourage you to do so. Talk to some of the more senior folks in your department, maybe your chair if you feel comfortable doing so, and saying, hey, what are the things that really stand out to you that I should be bragging about? That kind of goes into another observation I had where I was surprised at times what people flagged on in my file that they thought was really important and relevant, where I may have thought, oh man, I almost didn't even include that. And I'm very glad that I did. So you can never tell, and sometimes it changes, at the various levels. This is something that maybe my department didn't really give much thought to, but the dean said, oh yeah, this is something that an accomplishment or a milestone that we really want to talk about and uplift. So put everything in. I know, and I'm not here to talk about Panther 180. I'm sure someone else has already done that and jumped in front of that freight train. But but it's never the wrong move to put that information in there, because you never know what people are going to find relevant and make the case for having you be a part of the team. Those are kind of the big impressions that I got that were on the positive side. I think one, I'll close with this comment maybe, and make sure that Caroline has some time to speak as well. But you do have an opportunity, and maybe this has been shared already, to respond to the decisions that are rendered at each level. And I would encourage you to think, as you're moving through the process, to think about taking advantage of that. There were a couple instances where I read a response and it wasn't completely accurate. I don't think there was anything malicious by any means, but there was some information that just wasn't quite correct, and it didn't necessarily reflect well on me. So I used that opportunity. I was nervous about it, I'll admit, but I used that opportunity to say, hey, just for the record, here's what this piece in my file is actually referring to, or here's what this individual actually said. And then that goes on the record, and that's seen, from what I understand, by the next link in the chain as you move on up. If you see something that's incorrect, but it's to your benefit, like a bank error in your favor, I suppose you could correct that as well. I'll leave that up to you. But I was glad that I took the opportunity to speak up and mention when there were some things that were just somewhat inaccurate. And I wanted to make sure that that had been rectified before the next individual got a chance to review it. That was my spew. So I hope some of that information is helpful.
Thank you, Joshua. I think you're saying write down everything you do. I often forget to put things down, and it's sometimes not easy to go through the calendar and get it. But somebody in the morning session mentioned that Tracy Weiler does a series of talks on how to keep track of these things, which we'll put in when we send you the handout of all the links, we'll have it there. So if you want to listen to her, because you might give a talk here, you might do something, you forget to put it down. So I'd like to introduce Jan Ase-Tutu, who is professor in the College of Law. Jan, welcome. Jan is a former faculty fellow over here in Wahwed.
Hi, thank you so much, Susanna. I just wanted to thank you for the invitation to speak. And this has really just been a fabulous seminar already. There's so many gold nuggets. So I think this is phenomenal. And I'll just say that I'm going to speak quickly about three things. I'm not going to give you advice, but I'll talk a little bit about what I did when I was going through and some of the things that I had in mind. I think that planning for tenure has to start day one. I'm a full professor now at the College of Law. I'll admit that I was terrified. That was probably unnecessary, but I certainly didn't take tenure for granted as I was going through. And so there are three audiences that I was thinking about as I was going through. One is the university, that second one is the college, and the third was the intellectual scholarly community that was going to be evaluating me when I was going up for tenure. So I think, first of all, the seminars like this are really important because you get to learn about the university, what the university values. And as I said, there's already been so much amazing information today. So it's good even for me to hear some of it again. So in terms of the university, I was paying attention to some of the documents that have been mentioned already, getting a sense of what the university values, meeting people outside of the college. I found this both worthwhile and rewarding. Learning about the institution, as Susanna said, I got involved with AWED. The faculty mentor program I found was also very useful. It's a good way to connect with others and to also get some mentorship. It's awesome that we have this Office of Faculty Leadership, and then also the Office to Advance Teaching, right? So as you're going through, because your teaching is also going to be evaluated, we have great resources. So I would just say to make use of those resources at the university level. I mean, at least I found that helpful. But most importantly, for me anyway, was the college, because that's where your first evaluation is going to be happening, is among your colleagues. And so I was paying close attention to the bylaws and really going beyond what's just on the written paper. So for me, a lot of that was listening and listening and listening, right? Trying to understand what is it that my colleagues value, what is valued at the college, who ran into trouble along the way, because some people ran into trouble along the way. Fortunately, I did not, but some people ran into trouble along the way, and trying to understand why. So I put a lot of my energy into understanding that portion of it. And I think that was beneficial for me at the end of the day. So for example, for me, joint publications were not something that were going to be valued, or if they were going to be a little bit iffy. So I didn't pursue joint publications. In my workplace, presence in the building mattered a lot. Some places it wouldn't matter a lot, but it mattered a lot for my colleagues. And so I made sure that I was present in the building, which meant having to figure out how do you balance getting your work done with being present and being engaged in the building, because that's something that they wanted to have in a colleague. And so I think listening to what is important in your college is valuable. So I don't know if that's necessarily always the best strategy in terms of what I ended up doing, because it was hard. It was a lot of work, but I wanted to make sure that I had met the basic minimum requirements for tenure at my college. I wanted to make sure I had at least what the person ahead of me and the couple people ahead of me had done for their tenure files, plus a little bit more, and had also taken into consideration what is the environment, because they say all politics are local, and they very much are. So that was important for me. And then the last thing is I do intellectual property, so just the scholarly community that I was engaging with. So presenting in conferences, getting involved in different service activities. And that was really valuable for me too, because not only does it get your name out there, but the other thing is for me is as I was going up through the different promotion processes, there were a lot of different people outside of the university that I could talk to, sort of get a heads up on, what's the story here, what's the story there. So there were a couple people that I got to learn are known terrors when it comes to tenure reviews. So if you want to make sure you don't get those people, or to the extent you can, that they're not reviewing you. So I'd say that for me, those are just the three audiences I was thinking of: the university, the college, and my external community, my external academic community. And I think, preparing for the whole thing, you have to start from the beginning. It's a big relief, I think, to be on the other side, but the university has a lot of wonderful resources. And, those are just my few thoughts on that I'm able to share on my own experience. So good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Jan. You make such a good point about building your network. It is good to get involved outside of your department or your college, and also to start thinking about who are going to be your external evaluators early on, so that you can meet them at conferences or comment on their work or send them your papers. So I'd like to take a minute to introduce Caroline Simpson, who is the Associate Director in the Office to Advance Women Equity and Diversity, and also is Equity Advisor for the College of Arts, Sciences, and Education. She can tell you a little bit about her role. She's a resource for you, even if you're not in case. She knows it a lot. She teaches the T&P workshops. Caroline?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Susanna. I don't have much more to say than that. I'm very happy to talk to anybody about the tenure and promotion process. I've been at FIU for 26 years. I was one of those associate professors who got stuck at that level for a very long time. But after 14 years as associate, I was promoted to full professor in the Department of Physics here at FIU in 2014. So not exactly recent, but not as long ago as my tenure. And as Susanna mentioned, I do help run the tenure and promotion workshops. So if you have any questions or concerns, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Caroline. So I don't know if we have any unanswered questions or anybody that wants to make comments. I think, Heather, it might be helpful to talk a little more about the selection of the external reviewers. I would like to mention that, if you had a stop clock for a parental leave or something, the department chair is supposed to use the template of the letter I put in the chat, which says, do not count number of years. Don't take the number of people's publications and divide it by the number of years they've been here, because they may have been on an approved leave or something. So we don't want department chairs to say, well, you were here 7 years, but you only published X if you had a year's leave, which some chairs have been known to do. So you can always reach out to Caroline or me if you have questions about the parental leave policy. Provost Furton has been very helpful in making sure that parental leave isn't counted against women. And the other part is, I think you have a right to object to 2 reviewers.
Yeah, so Susanna, I was cutting and pasting from the Tenure and Promotion manual, but I don't think it came out well. So we'll make sure that it's included in the FAQs that we send out after this to everyone. But in the TMP manual, it clearly lays out both the procedure to solicit evaluations and the expectations. So the file must contain a minimum of 5 letters from external reviewers who are in a position to provide an evaluation of the candidate's scholarly and professional activities. The dean or department unit chairperson director, in consultation with some or all members of the departmental unit tenure promotion committee, will decide from whom to request letters, and then they make the formal requests. The candidate will be informed of the identities of the outside reviewers and shall be given the opportunity to add up to 2 names from whom letters will be solicited and to strike up to 2 names from the list. So this is an important sort of collaborative process with the chair and the tenure and promotion committee. This is also key. Letters should not be solicited from former mentors, mentees, co-authors, co-editors, or anyone who would be associated closely enough where impartiality might be called into question. Letters should come from individuals or institutes that are at benchmark research universities. So they should be Carnegie Research University, very high research activity, or Research University, high research activity. So R1s, at least 2 letters should be from very high research universities, so faculty there. And let's see, and then there's some, so best practice is to familiarize yourself with what the manual says, but also you should, before your chair should, before sending out letters of solicitation, write to your dean and get the final sign off that the persons that are being, from whom letters are being solicited, are in keeping with what the expectations are for the tenure and promotion process.
So we do have some people from Panther 180 here. Heather, do you want to?
Yes, of course. So as I said, it can be a lengthy process of uploading the file, especially the CV. I don't think I can overstate that. So I just wanted to introduce Abilene Pinzon and have her talk a little bit about the work that they do in Panther 180, what they have to support you in the process, and to introduce her team.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for logging on. My name is Abilene Pinzon. I am the Assistant Director at the Office of the Provost, Planning and Finance. On camera are my colleagues, Marshall Maurice, Manager of Academic Support Services, and Ryan Starling, who is a Coordinator of Academic Support Services. So us 3 combined, in part, work on Panther 180 and are here to support you in any systematic way possible, right? As you're going through promotion, you'll be entering that into Panther 180, and myself and my colleagues will be here to help you in a variety of ways, right? So there will be open labs that we'll be hosting, both for promotion, right, with one being focused on tenure and promotion, and then a few others for non-tenure track. There's going to be multiple sessions of each. That way, we offer some in the morning, some in the afternoon. That way you could accommodate with your teaching schedule or just your work schedule as a whole. So be on the lookout for those. We will be targeting and sending that communication directly to the candidates who will be going up for promotion that we know of. Speaking of which, one of the small technicalities that we want to keep an eye out, or we would like you to keep an eye out, is if you are planning on going up for promotion, your chairperson is to communicate that over to my team. So they'll be emailing panther180@fiu.edu. Once we get that notification and the application period has opened, we will be generating a link on your homepage of Panther 180. So that's something that we'll be generating on your behalf. If you don't see that on your homepage, right, your first level of resources would be your chairperson, right? And they should be communicating your intent to go up for promotion to us. And then we can make that correction in the system and just grant you access to the proper applications. In relation to Open Labs, we also actually offer Open Labs for annual evaluation. So not just for promotion purposes, but as you've heard in the presentation, annual evaluations is extremely important as well. And all of those do together eventually appear on your promotion file. So it is also extremely important to keep an eye on that as the years go by. And we will be offering Open Labs to all faculty around the time period of annual evaluation. So you could be on the lookout for that as well. We will be sending out communications from the Panther 180 email, which is panther180@fiu.edu. Very simple, straightforward. Our email is also panther180.fiu.edu. It's the same place that you go, right, to log into your Panther 180 account. One of the things that has been mentioned multiple times today, and I want to reiterate, is, taking the time and not waiting till the last minute to populate your account in Panther 180, right? It could be a little bit scary, right? Especially if you've never logged in or entered information. But once you get the hang of it, it's your information, and you'll see how quickly, you get used to it. It could be time consuming. Having said that, it could be time consuming because obviously you have a lot of items that need to be entered, especially as it relates to promotion, because it could be, 6 years worth or more, depending on, what you're going up for, of content that you need to enter. So just don't wait till the last minute. Another advice that we could give you as administrators supporting you as a faculty member going up for promotion is, if you start early enough, right, we will be hosting Open Labs. Come to us with your questions. And I did hear some faculty mention prior that sometimes you're in the system and you don't quite know where to put an activity, where to put what you've done. So we have some experience with that. We've been working with the system for a few years now, so we can help and guide you through that, or also find other resources to help you determine what the best placement of that information is. So at the end of the day, in summary, right, my team and I are happy to assist in any way that we possibly can. We have a support line that's dedicated to Panther 180. It's going to be dropped in the chat if it hasn't already. It's 305-348-2161. The best source of contacting us, we would say, is the email, because you could send an email at any point of the day, right, even at night, and we'll respond within like 24 to 48 hours. And we have more eyes on that inbox versus, getting a call. If you call after working hours, then you might have to leave a message, which again, we'll get back to you. It's not one of those hotlines that no one checks or answers. We are always keeping an eye on who's calling, who's asking questions. So we will get back to you. You don't have to fear that, by contacting Panther 180, you're not going to actually get a real person. You will, and it will likely be Ryan. And if not Ryan, likely Marshall. But all three of us are happy to help wherever possible. So with that, we just collectively want to wish you all good luck in your endeavors for promotion and just annually and being a successful faculty at FIU. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. So are there any other questions that anybody wants to address or any comments from the panelists?
I just have a little bit of advice, maybe for people who may find themselves in a situation similar to mine. I'm in the physics department. I am an astronomer. There are very few astronomers in the physics department, and a lot of my physics colleagues, I think, haven't really had as good an understanding of what working in astronomy is like. So what I found really important for my promotion file was ensuring that my context was well understood. So I was being evaluated sort of appropriately for my context. The physicists, don't understand what it means to have a national observing proposal accepted or declined, that kind of a thing. So when I was preparing my file, I was thinking about that, and then obviously my department was supportive. I was promoted, but some of the letters that I was getting along that path, right, of approval, were written a little confusingly. And so I sort of took advantage of that rebuttal system that exists, where when when a letter, like from your department personnel committee, the college committee, is uploaded into PantherSoft, the applicant can respond. Essentially, you've got a certain number of days to upload. Well, it's called a rebuttal. And I actually did that several steps along the way. And it was not that I was particularly arguing about what they said. I was trying to clarify what they were. I'm like, well, no, this isn't what happened. It should have been this way, right? So I would kind of advise you to just keep an eye on that. I have no idea if those letters helped. I hope that they did. Again, I was just trying to provide my context. Thank you, Eric, for putting it. It's 5 calendar days. Yes, not 5 business days. So do keep that in mind. It was a while ago, so I wasn't sure if it was 3 or 5. But when you're preparing your file and you're writing your statements, that's where you can really try to help establish your context, because we are all sort of experts in our own little areas that may not be fully understood by everybody who's going to look at your file. So I guess that would be my advice. Thanks.
I would like to thank you for mentioning that, because we find that minority faculty sometimes really have to explain their context. They might be doing research in areas that aren't considered mainstream, just because if they're looking at minority groups, for instance. Anybody with a joint appointment also will have to do that. And also you want reviewers then that are going to look at all aspects of yourself. So for instance, I was in women's studies, so I wanted scholars that were psychologists and women's studies people, because the psychologists might just dismiss anything I did in women's studies. So if you're in a minority discipline within your own department, you might need to take extra care in writing your research statement to show how valuable it is, a contribution. So I guess we're ready to close out now. I don't know.
Susanna, I just wanted to add before the provost makes final remarks. So all of the information regarding the timeline and so on is on the Office of the Provost's website under faculty resources. The dates, are updated on a yearly basis. And so I've posted in the chat what the dates are for 21-22. And then I'm sure fairly soon we'll have the dates listed for next year.
So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. We will send this out once we get the link for the webinar. And we sent you an evaluation. If you think we missed talking about anything, let us know. We'll be here next year. So
yeah, I just want to thank you, Susanna and Heather and Eric and all the panelists. And thank you everyone for participating in this workshop. As you hopefully gleaned from this, and Caroline as well, I have resonated with me because I'm a forensic scientist. And so when you're in an interdisciplinary area, sometimes citations aren't quite as high as they are in other areas. And I was always a minority, voice, so to speak, within the department. Still am. I'm still in chemistry and biochemistry, but you have resources. Please reach out. And you've got a number of people. We fully expect that you will all be successful. As you heard, this is not a gotcha where it shouldn't be, that we're trying to find weaknesses. It's all about trying to emphasize the great work that you're doing. And so please don't be shy, reach out, and look forward to you all being successful in your promotions in the near future. So again, thank you for joining the workshop, and thank you all the organizers and the panelists for, I think it was a phenomenal workshop again. When you think I've been provost 8 years, I still learn some things, so so hopefully keep in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good semester, everybody.